Challenge 2. In this challenge, we're going to create a new image element. We'll add the image node to the figure below, and there's a figure tag set here. Change the image's width property so the image appears smaller. Give the image a thick border with this color, and assign the image an appropriate ID. And the reason we're assigning it an ID is so it's easier for us to access it in challenge 3 when we're going to remove the image. So let's take a look at our code. If we notice for our challenge here, this is where it exists, and you should see a figure tag, although yours probably looks more like this. And what we essentially want to do is add some code inside of there using JavaScript that would look like this. It would be an image tag with a source of green.jpg, a width of 100, and an ID of green pic. And of course the CSS styling would be in the style section. But we're not doing HTML, we're not doing CSS, we're doing this using JavaScript. So how do we do this? How can we create a whole new tag that doesn't exist in our document? Well, we're going to use create element. We've done that before. Creating an element is not simply enough. We have to append it to our document. Either using a pin child or insert before. In this case, we're going to use a pin child. So let's get started. Go down to our add image challenge here, add image challenge. And we need a variable that's going to store the element that we're going to create, the new image tag. So let's just call this picture. And it is going to store what happens when we do a document.create element and we create that image tag. Okay, so once we have that image, we have that element, and we're referring from now on as that image tag as picture, then we can change attributes of that picture tag. We could change its source, we can change its width, we can change its ID, just using dot notation. So let's change, misspell. Let's change its source by picture.src, and then we just simply set that equal to green.jpg, assigning it a value of green.jpg. I'm sorry, not setting it equal to. Picture dot, well, we said we wanted to change the width property, so picture.width, and we set that equal to 100. And then picture, we wanted to change the ID attribute, so picture.id, and let's just call it green pic, something easy. Now the next thing that we wanted to do is change its CSS, and that's a little different because with the CSS we first have to address its style property. So we do picture.style, and then in this case we set a border, and we're going to set it to 2 pixels solid, and then the color was 7 DC 890. Okay, so this element now exists, but it's not attached to our tree. If it's not attached to our tree, it's not going to show up. In fact, if I went down here and did my event listener and then refreshed the page, there would be absolutely nothing on the page. So we need a way to append this or add this to our document. We want this to appear in this figure tag, so we have to find some way to access this. Our code needs to know where to put this before we append it, okay? So how can we get to figure? Figure does not have an ID like we are used to. We cannot use document.getElement by ID to access this figure tag. We could use document.getElements by tag name, but that would return a collection, and we would need to use our square brackets to address what particular one in the collection that we wanted to use. In this case, since there's only one figure and this figure happens to be our first instance, we can use the query selector. Remember, the query selector returns the first instance of anything that you would use as a selector in CSS. So let's create a new element called, let's call it figure L. And figure L is going to be what happens when we access that figure element in our HTML code. So we can do that with a document.query selector, and we just want to tell it to go find that figure. Now once it's found that figure, then we can add our picture inside the figure L. We need to know the parent element. The parent element would be figure L. And then we'll use the append child method. And what do we want to append? Well, we want to append picture. Notice I did not use quotation marks there because this is a variable, no quotation marks. Okay, once we add our event listener, this should work. And since we want this to execute on load, we do window.add event listener. Oh, what did I do? Load. And the name of the function was add image. Okay, that should work. So let's refresh our page and boom, we have an image.